What's up? It's Matt. We're back with another episode of MPTV. This time I've got one of the fellas, one of the MP crew, ABR's own Mr. Doug Smith, or as the common folk know him, Doe. We'll get to that funny story later. Doug, tell us a little bit about Doug Smith.
Oh, let's see. Spent nearly 30 years in marketing, radio, corporate radio. Been in small markets, big markets. Known you for about 21 years. And basically over half my life was involved in radio and marketing, and now onto the digital side of things and working in the restaurant industry. I worked in a restaurant through high school and college, learned the back end, worked back a house, still have scars on my knuckles.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Cleaning the grill.
Where'd you work at?
It was a little mom and pop restaurant in Green Hills where I grew up. Started a dishwasher, worked my way up, was cooking, but one night cleaning the scouring pad, when you clean the thing, it stuck and my knuckles went all the way across, and I still have the scar. So
Workman's
that's like
comp.
my big connection point when I talk to people. I go, see this?
So you have a reason to do the MP. You have the MP fist bump, and then you have the injury from the restaurant world.
I do. That's like my that's my mark.
Yeah.
That's my connection.
So radio, you were a radio broadcaster out of college, though. You did some calling on football, right?
Yeah, I did college sports, football, basketball, baseball
sample.
Down in Texas.
Give us a little sample.
Just don't
Come on,
make
just
it up.
act like you got Joe Burrow under center. He's got Chase to his right. Go.
And you're like, Burrow under center. He's got Chase split wide to the right. He's got Higgins far right, mixing into backfield. Handoff, Bixon left side through the gap, down to the 15 to the 20. He's brought down by Evans, the middle linebacker. First down, 10, Bengals. Scores 21-7. You always want to throw the score in every 2 minutes.
Okay.
That's one of the biggest mistakes that people make. It drives you nuts if you're listening or watching. Now, TV, they have the score up every 2 minutes. It's a trick from Jack Buck.
Okay.
You turn it every 2 minutes. You have a little sand dial.
I remember when you did that in one of our employee meetings or something on Zoom one time, and people thought I was messing with me. You knew that, and they flipped their shit when you were like, 3rd and 5, and you just went into it. I was like watching the game, and I'm like, what happened? Where's Mixon? What's going on? So after that, you went on to the radio. That's how we met each other. You were in radio sales. We went in the radio together. I moved on into retail and then this. And then for 5 or 6 years, we kind of had a flirting relationship where I was like, I knew I was going to eventually bring you on, but I had to convince myself of how it was going to happen. You have an interesting background, which I think is going to be cool for people to hear about, because this is the kind of the untolds of the world of marketing.
Right.
You worked in radio and research as well, so you knew a lot about research. And so explain, if you will. So let's just use an example. We won't mention any stations. Yeah, we will. Let's say Q102 in Cincinnati, Ohio. So Q102, Cincinnati, Ohio. You and I sold Q102, Channel Z, B105, WGRR.
Right.
When I used to sell radio, I was using what the corporate line told us. Hey, our station reaches 15,000 people every 15 minutes, this many women, this many this. And then I remember about a year and a half in, actually starting to look at the asterisks when we print off Maximizer, we print off TapScan. It was like, survey of 25 women or whatever.
Yep.
Talk about the ugly truth behind media, because now that you're in the digital, what I love about digital is that we can wholeheartedly let our clients know that on Facebook, on you can look at a video, how many views it got, how many unique people, how many people clicked.
Yep.
We can see hardcore data, but when people are buying radio and TV and cable and most mass media, there's an ugly truth behind there. Tell us what it is.
It's the fact that there is the law of statistics. People will talk about statistics. You're not going to poll everybody. When they talk about Nielsen ratings for television, they say 35 million people watch the Super Bowl. They don't know if 35 million people, but there's different metrics you use. Well, in radio, back in the days, and some smaller markets have it, it's a diary. You have to fill it out. In the bigger markets now, it's called portable people meter. When you listen to radio, every 4.2 seconds, there's an inaudible tone that comes across, and this little thing picks it up. And it looks like a pager. They now have them as like the Apple Watch look and everything. So it's picking that up. There's a reason why in radio you hear traffic and weather or commercials and things every 15 minutes. What they're rating is how long is someone listening for 15 minutes. You have to win what's called the quarter hour, but you only have to listen 5 minutes to win the quarter hour. So if I listen for 5 minutes and I'm listening to Q102, they get credit for me listening for 15 minutes, even though I only listen 5.
And even though you might have switched 5 stations to hear a song you like.
There you go. Exactly. So it goes back and forth. Well, the thing is, they do what's called weighting. So let's just say in the Cincinnati market, typically the big demo is 2554. That's what everyone goes after, which cracks me up because my son's 25. I'm 50.
Holy shit, you're 50?
We couldn't be any different, but then yet we're the same.
By the way, have you seen that Kevin Hart thing where he's interviewing the one gentleman with glasses and he said something like, I'm 50. He goes, holy crap. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that
We'll
yet.
have to pop it on here. It's so funny.
Okay.
I don't know if it's real, but it's funny because the guy's like, man. He's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean that way.
No, I'll have to see it. So what happens is they, they break it into segments.
Need some water?
No, I'm all right. So out of 2554.
For the record, I don't have any water. I don't know why.
That's all right. I have some out there somewhere. So out of 2554, they go, here's 2534, 3544, 4554. They may have only a very small percentage of people who are 2534 that are actually taking part in the weighting process.
So what's small percentage? 50, 100?
In the ballpark, maybe even 20 or 30 people in a big market. One listener can heavily determine what the ratings are. And I have an example of a story of a radio station in San Francisco.
That's the lady, right?
That just happened. Yep,
yeah.
Exactly. So what happens is if they are under delivering in a certain demo, well, say the average person, if you're part of it, you count for 4 people on average. Okay. Well, if they don't have enough people in the 2534 demo, you may count for 8 people, 10 people. So if you're a heavy listener to a station, all of a sudden that station goes up. In the example, there was before I came here to work with you, I worked for a company and we consulted radio groups. We did database collection, which is where the database thing comes in and understanding all the metrics. There was a station we started working with. They were number 6 in the market. The number 1 station, nobody could beat. Well, when you dive into the ratings, there was one lady in a county north of San Francisco that was heavily underserved. She was a heavy listener to that radio station. She counted for 14 people. So it was nearly 3 times the average.
And when you multiply that 14 out to get to the 200,000 demographic.
Bingo. It was crazy. Well, you can look in on the metrics and you know when people are coming into a survey, coming out of the survey, and we're looking at it. We go, she's going to drop off in the next couple months. That lady dropped off in 4 months. That station that was number 1 dropped to 10 because one person. So when you look at the ratings and everything else, it's really goofy, but that's what makes this so much fun is you're right. So for 30 years, I'm saying 10,000 people are listening.
Yep.
You don't know.
Yeah. That 10,000 people, and to put it in perspective, if you're in Cincinnati, Ohio, and they're saying that 15,000 people are listening to our station, and let's say 10,000 are women 25 to 54, that 10,000 number might have come from 20 people actually listening and then being multiplied out to reflect the market data. So that's crazy.
Oh, it is crazy.
I think back to my days of selling radio, and I hated the fact that I couldn't tangibly tell clients what their marketing was doing. And even now I hate it even more because I have clients that will still allow radio and TV and direct mail and billboards to get away with these, not even vanity metrics, with ghost metrics. But when you show them something on Facebook, email, text, email, YouTube marketing, video marketing, database reactivation, it's like witchery to them.
Yeah, and in fact, now that I'm old, newspaper is not that big anymore.
What do you mean?
But you actually opened a piece of paper and you got ink on your hands and stuff like that. Never saw one. Okay. Well, back when the newspaper, they counted the circulation was 2.2, meaning every newspaper that went out, they were counting as it was being read by 2.2 people.
They were assuming the whole house was reading it.
Bingo. So they would say 100,000 people read our paper. Not really it. So when you look at all the mass media metrics, when you really understand the back end, it'll drive you nuts. That's the beauty on the digital side, which was so much fun coming over here when you started showing me all this. I'm like, wait a minute, how did I even make a living for 30 years when what I was selling was like voodoo metrics, and now you can actually track it? It's crazy.
Now come full circle. So yesterday, met with Dre, and I actually have my phone. I'll pull this up because I'm curious, but talk about the difference of going from a media industry where it was not even vanity. I mean, hey, we think this many people are watching. We think they're listening. They may or may not come into your restaurant. And a lot of small businesses like a Dre can't afford radio advertising.
No.
But when you look at where you're at now and what you can see, what is some of the things like to you that are just eye-opening from a standpoint of the value that is available for a small independent restaurant that wasn't available 20 years ago or isn't available in mass media?
I think number one, it's the ability to just track what it costs to actually get someone's eyeballs, to get someone to take an action. It's true, tangible, you can touch it. It's not voodoo metrics. It's not, we think this. Here it is, black and white. We invested X, and it led to this many people seeing it, this many people taking an action. You can't get that anywhere else. And that was the biggest eye-opener.
I'll take a screenshot of this so that David can edit it in. Let's talk about that X, because this is what to me is fascinating. This is where I've got a tagline that I use a little, and I'm going to start using more often. It's you can either outspend or outsmart. If you're a restaurant owner and somebody's not eating at your restaurant, they're either at home or they're at a competitor. And if they're at a competitor, you have two choices of getting that person. You can outspend them or you can outsmart them. Well, if they're McDonald's or let's say a Jeff Ruby's in Cincinnati or they're Arby's or BW3s, places like that, you can't outspend them. No. They have bigger budget. They have bigger what I call FU money in the marketing world, and they can afford to throw money against the wall and not know what the hell happens. But you can outsmart them. It's like I'm looking at Dre Bar and Grill, which is a restaurant that you worked with on America's Best Restaurants. They became a client yesterday. We did some trial stuff for them. In 45 days, they spent $737.61 on Facebook and Instagram ads targeted around their restaurant. They had 124,000 impressions, meaning that people saw it, touched it, clicked it. I actually just saw it.
Right.
3,086 engagements. So of those 124,000 impressions, about 3,000 took some type of action. Of those 3,000, 1,080 gave a phone number, 1,046 a phone number, 874 a birthday. Of those people, 73.85% were brand new or hadn't been in a while, of which 10% have already walked in, 140 people, $8,316.85, $5.63 acquisition cost. So
it's crazy.
To me, that this was my vision years ago, was I hated walking into Ferrari's Little Italy, the Bassano's, and saying, hey, you're on WGRR, you're spending $600 a week or whatever it was, which, by the way, Mama Bassano's lasagna, legit. Their bakery, legit. It's in Madeira, Ohio. Awesome food. Great family.
Okay.
You ever eaten there?
No.
What?
No.
My gosh.
All right.
Kids.
Well, that's on my list.
So I used to hate walking in there because I couldn't tangibly say what your money was doing. And when I stumbled upon this type of tactic with Hofbrauhaus and Quaker Steak and Lube, I guess going on 8 years ago now, 9 years ago, and now it's gotten to a point where I can tangibly say, look, every time you spend $5, Bob, at Dre, you get an impression, a couple impressions, a couple engagements, somebody's data, and a visit for $60 average check. That's the power.
Yep.
There is no guesswork like there is with the marketing you and I sold for the last 20 years.
The way that I categorize what we do now with digital, it's the great equalizer. It's the small guy can do it, and oftentimes better than the big boy, because the big boy thinks that they know it all. And
here's real quick. I'll interrupt. Here's something with the big boy. The big boy. How do I say this politely? The big boy employs somebody that's never done half the shit.
Yeah.
And so we deal with it. One of the reasons we've stepped away from dealing with a lot of the corporates and a lot of the franchises is because we end up getting in a conversation with somebody that's 1, 2, 3 years out of college, that's done a little stuff on Facebook and Instagram and email, and they have experience in that one brand. People like us have experience in hundreds of brands. But even then, if you compare that big boy to the independent, the person helping that franchise or helping that corporate office or corporate store versus the owner, you have the same tools. Mm-hmm. And you more likely, the person in the restaurant has more knowledge of the actual restaurant business than the person helping the big boy with marketing. Sorry, your story.
No, but it is the great equalizer because, again, when you do radio, if you're in a big market, you really want to do radio or mass media the right way. It is frequency. You got to spend a lot of money. A lot of people don't have that. There's different ways to do it, but you can utilize on a little bit of an investment and be better than the big guys. So it doesn't take a lot of money. And one of the big joys for me in doing this over the last couple of years with you is when I still have lunch and dinner and I'll get a drink or two with friends in radio and TV and all this. When I show them this, it's the same thing over and over. I should just write it out. They go, I didn't know you could do that.
Yep.
And I go, yeah, but here's the cool thing. When you start talking about it, it's basic stuff, but it goes right over their head. And, again, Cincinnati, we're home of Procter & Gamble, Kroger. We have Fortune 500 companies.
Yep.
And we both know agency people. And again, I've had lunch and dinner with friends who work in big, big agencies. And they'll say that. And I go, no, wait a minute. You handle multi-million-dollar budgets. You're spending on TV, direct mail, billboards, blah, 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 blah. And you don't know this? You don't know the importance of a database or whatever else. And it turns the whole narrative. And that's what's fun talking to the independent restaurants and some of the smaller restaurants is showing them the stuff to do that you can sit there honestly and go, hey, you can track it. Here's how you do it. But you're going to do something that even the big guys down the street, in 5 or 6 months, they're going to sit there and go, what in the hell are they doing?
Well, and the big guys too, like they don't know it.
No,
it's comical. Like the perception is like outsmart versus outspend. You can't outspend the big person. It's just not happening. And if you do, you're probably going to spend yourself into bankruptcy from your business. But you can outsmart them easily because I can tell you, we talk to marketing directors of pretty decent brands. They have no clue what we're doing because they're stuck in the weeds of updating the website, updating the location pages, getting the Google My Business right, the new menu, the LTOs, the in-store graphics. They're stuck doing a lot of stuff. They're so far behind the times. I've not met more than 2 or 3 marketing people out of 100 plus that understand the data collection tactics we're using and how it's being retargeted. And I'm like, wow, this is something that I've actually met more independent operators that know more than corporate offices. So it's not hard to outsmart. It's just a matter of convincing yourself to either learn it at a deep level or have somebody else do it. So, Okay, break time. Restaurant owners, you're watching MPTV, so you're obviously interested in increasing your sales and profits. But what if I told you could eliminate the hope and pray out of your marketing? You could spend money and actually see results. Most marketing starts with attention, like a billboard. The problem is that attention leads nowhere. That's why we created the ROI Engine Restaurant Program. We take attention and gain huge engagement, whether it's in-store or online. We help you build a database with deep customer information that's comprised of email, cell phone, and birthday. And then we drive them into the restaurant with trackable results. Yes, results you can actually see. If you're interested and want to have a conversation, check out restaurantmarketingthatworks.com. Worst case scenario, you get a lot of great ideas. Now back to the show. Last thing before I get to my last question, because we got a couple minutes, we'll wrap up. I was just looking at that stats when you were talking. So Dre, 1,080 people gave their phone number. Let's just say 1,050 ballpark, email, phone number, name, gender, visit frequency. Out of 3,000 that engaged in the ad. And then of that, within 5-6 weeks, 10% walked in. So 33% responded to the marketing campaign that Ashley's team developed, the attraction. Of the 33%, or of that 33%, they went into Tom's system, Database Dynamite, and joined his build team. And then out of that, 10% walked in the restaurant in like a month and a couple weeks. It's just when you see that 33,000 down to 1,000 and then down to 10%, that's pretty impressive. But it's cool that that's a tool at many different levels that an independent can have that the corporates aren't going to act on because it's the analogy of the cruise ship or the dinghy. If I'm in a 10-foot Bass Tracker aluminum boat with a 10 horsepower Johnson Everett on it from Bass Pro Shops, I can turn really quick. If I'm in a cruise ship from Carnival, which is the corporate office, they can't turn. It takes them 2 or 3 years to figure it out.
And there are some corporate marketing people who get it, and I stress, but it's very few. I had a conversation with one today, big name restaurant, and their corporate marketing person said, I love it. We're going to roll you out in one location down in Georgia, and then we're going to slowly go because this is great. And when you hear someone of that caliber, per se, who gets it, it's almost like
Exciting.
it's exciting, but you also sit back and go, why did I just have 9 conversations with people who argued with me to get to one who goes, what you guys are doing, I've never seen before. I love it.
And I'm not threatened by it.
Yeah, I'm not threatened by it. That's a whole nother conversation.
Okay, so wrapping up.
Yes.
Great stuff. Hope y'all enjoyed it because this is why I wanted to have you on. I knew you'd bring a different perspective. A lot of my guests.
Restaurant owners, did you know Matt has free online marketing courses that teach you how to successfully market your restaurant? Email support@mattplapp.com to get access to the courses and a free social media content calendar.
Downtime, airplane mode. I always ask people at the end of the podcast, what do you do to turn it off so that you get yourself out of Matt Plapp mode, out of MPTV, out of ABR, and live life and keep yourself mentally strong?
Admittedly, I've been horrible at that until the last couple months ago, where I may read, I may do some stuff. I got a wireless phone charger that is in my newly remodeled kitchen.
Oh, nice.
I put the phone on vibrate. I put it over there to charge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which you hate, by the way.
It's all whenever we travel.
Yeah, but then I got the call at 3 a.m. where your wife was in the hospital. If I didn't have that on, you'd have been in trouble. So that's a whole other thing. But I put the phone away. It's on vibrate. Can't answer it. And I sit down, and typically I'll spend time with my wife. Say, what do we want? What do we want to watch? And I'm not big on TV. I don't watch much of it, but maybe some Netflix stuff. And it's just chill. No phone, no anything. Sit back. Weather's nicer. Go for walks. But it's just quality time.
Cool. Well, I appreciate coming on MPTV.
Cool. Appreciate it. I've seen so many episodes. Now I'm on
Now
it.
you're finally on. So
Woohoo!
There you go. My man Doe will get that story right there, by the way, as a lot of people, for whatever reason, email Doug and they add an H and he becomes Doe. So we like calling him Doe. So next time you see Doug, call him Doe, give him a little crap. But if you learned anything from this episode of MPTV, is that it's really easy to outsmart all of your competitors. Why? Because a lot of them are trying to outspend you, and they're outspending you on antiquated tactics like radio. They think they're reaching 10,000 people, and they're really reaching 10 homeless people and people that aren't eating at your restaurant. So don't outspend, outsmart, and take your marketing to the next level. Doug, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See y'all later.